Hello there, welcome to another edition of Matt's Chats. This is a series of short videos where I sit and talk to people in and around the whisky industry to kind of shed a little bit of light and delve a little bit deeper into the industry. I'm delighted to be here today with Hannett, who's the master blender for the Isla distillery of Bruichladdich.
That's right,
welcome,
yes.
and thank you.
Thank you for having me, Matt. It's good to be here.
Yeah, and today we're going to talk a bit about Bruichladdich and one particular bottling.
Yeah.
But for those people that maybe aren't familiar with Bruichladdich, could you just sort of explain a little bit about sort of what it is and the sort of heritage?
Yeah, sure, yeah. I mean, that's probably going to take me about 45 minutes, so this is a very long 10-minute chat. But no, look, there's a lot of things we do at Bruichladdich. Of course, we're making Isla single malt. Bruichladdich is quite unusual for an Isla whisky because it's unpeated. But we also make heavily peated whisky called Port Charlotte, and then a super heavy peated whisky called Octomore. And I think really in a nutshell that starts to give you an impression of what it is we do. It's about experimentation, it's about looking into different flavours. We make the botanist gin on the island as well, so we explore the kind of botanical kind of elements of Isla through that. Really it's about experimentation of flavour, looking at different barley varieties, focusing on the ingredients, and really focusing on making Isla the centre of what we do. So there's a real kind of community focus in it.
Because you use some barley that's grown on Isla and things like that, don't you, as well?
Yeah, we do. We started back in 2004, kind of trying to reconnect the land, the place with the whisky we were making, because there's huge amounts of whisky made on Isla, but none of it is with Isla grown barley. So again, in that community spirit, we're looking to kind of work with local farmers, and they grow barley for us, which makes about, depending on our production levels, but 50 to 60% of what we distill typically comes from what's grown on Isla. So,
having just been to Isla, how easy is it to grow barley there? Because it doesn't feel like it's maybe the best place.
No, to
grow barley.
It's difficult, and I think a lot often in the world of single malt or distilling in Scotland, you're looking at how much alcohol you can distill from every ton of barley, and that's what's really driven the whisky industry in Scotland for the last 50, 60, 70 years. And we think a little bit differently, and it's less about how efficient we can be, and it's for us it's about how we can get flavour and how we can explore the differences, and really the concept of terroir, which in wine people understand. It's about the grape, it's about the soil, it's about all of the combinations of the things that make
microclimate and sort of everything.
Exactly, and so we have that with where we're distilling as well, or how we're distilling. And Isla really gives us a bit of a challenge because it's wet. It's windy, there's the geese, the deer, the logistics of the island are small, but when
majority of it's covered in peat as well.
Well, absolutely,
you can't grow really anything other than moss or heather.
That's it.
Or whatever.
So it's a challenge, but I think we've gone from one farmer in 2004 to about 20 this year growing for us.
It's amazing.
It makes a big proportion of what we do, and the flavour is what we're looking for. That's what we get from it.
So speaking of flavour, you mentioned Octomore before.
Yes.
We've actually got it's quite a new release, isn't it? So this is the Octomore 16.3 that we're going to taste in a little bit. Can you just tell everyone maybe a little bit more about the Octomore and the range?
Oh, for sure, yeah. So Octomore is a whiskey where we are looking to, when we kind of created it, it was really just to explore, to experiment, to push the boundaries of peat. And over the years, we've because when you're peating the grain in the malting process, you can't control exactly how much smoke goes through there, so the levels vary quite wildly. You can have levels of smoke we measure, obviously, in the phenols, the chemicals that give us that kind of smoky flavour.
ppm.
It's ppm, yeah. So a heavily peated whisky like Port Charlotte's 40 ppm. Octomore is typically 80 and above, so anywhere between 80 and 309.2.
So like double.
Yeah, hugely peated. But so again, it's interesting for us to explore those flavours, and actually with the Octomore series, we're looking to explore not just peat, but cask influence, again, the location of where the barley's grown, that idea of terroir. And Octomore we release in editions, so every year we release a new edition. So just now it's the 16th edition we're just releasing, and we'll have in that release the 0.1, which is our kind of reference, our core, our 5 years aged bourbon cask matured Octomore. We'll then have a 0.2, which will be the same spirit but matured in a different way with different casks, so you can understand the influence of how the wood shapes the maturation, the flavour. And then the 0.3 will be with that we're going to taste is the Octomore grown. So Octomore is a farm, it's a real place in Ireland, 2 miles from the distillery, and James, the farmer there, grows barley for us. We keep it completely separate, malt it as Octomore from Octomore Farm, and have this single farm, single field, single vintage distillation, which we then keep as that 0.3. So again, you've got to see with each edition this.
That's cool, isn't it?
It's really cool.
So you keep it very separate.
Yeah.
So it's malted separately. It's then put through the sort of production process as its own.
It's absolutely its own.
So this one, as I say, is 16.3. So it's the 16th edition, and the 3 refers to the fact that it's the Octomore barley. Okay.
So it's a pretty complex numbering system, but I think once we give a bit of time to kind of understand and think about it, we're just trying to give as much information and differentiation in those whiskies as possible, so that when you taste it, you can, we've got the barley variety there. Again, the name of the guy who grew the barley is James Brown. We tell you which field he's grown it in. We tell you which cask he's matured it in. You can see the ppm. You can see the strength. Everything about that whiskey is open and transparent. And when you taste that whiskey, it won't make it taste different. But knowing all of that makes it a better experience, because you understand how those flavours have come to be.
So it is bringing it back to that sort of terroir.
Absolutely,
the location, the microclimate, and those things.
And Matt, often with making whiskey, you could make it much easier for yourself in terms of putting that whiskey out into the world by just making it kind of the same all the time. There's not much fun in that for us making it, and so we'd like to do it in a way where we can really focus in on what makes a whiskey. So we're not talking about local legends and eagles soaring over glens and all this kind of stuff. The story's about what's in the glass.
And it's almost, let's say, how whiskey used to be made. People used to obviously get local barley and just make what they could make.
Absolutely. And again, we do this across everything we do at Bruichladdich. So we always have traceability, we always have provenance, authenticity, and try and tell the story of how this whiskey has come to life.
So what is the ppm in this one before we dive in?
So for the 16.3 in this edition, it's 189.5 ppm.
Wow.
So it's heavily peated, but we always release Octomores as a bit of a challenge, because we're bottling it young, we're bottling it at high strength. This is 61.6% ABV, and again a really high level of peat.
Do you mention the age on there, or is it?
Yeah, I think we do. I think it's on there. So again, it's 5 years old. So typically for Octomore, that's kind of standard, and we issue it as a bit of a challenge. That actually, if you think about whiskey, then when you're getting into whiskey, you always hear that older is better, and most whiskies bottle at 40%, so that must be the right strength to bottle. And again, we think about peat smoke, and people, I'll have to drink whiskey for years before I can eventually graduate to Islay, and actually we wanted to issue this as a challenge, because effectively, if we're thinking that way, this whiskey's undrinkable, because it's too young and it's too peaty and it's too strong.
And it's way more peaty than sort of very famous Islay brands that everyone will know. But I think from inside the industry, amongst whiskey drinkers in the know, it's got quite a cult following.
It does.
I would say.
And I think it's because of that idea that this is going to be terrible stuff, but when there's that moment of revelation when you taste it, and I don't know if now's the time, but
I think it probably is the time. So
Slanger.
You immediately get that sort of waft of sort of quite heady sort of smoke, isn't it?
There is, and actually, I'm diving in and having a taste there, but you're right. If you start thinking about the nose on that, for a high strength whiskey, it's very soft. It's not aggressive. So
61.6. That actually comes across like.
It comes across
really nicely, doesn't it?
And so that's again. So we're expecting it to be really aggressive, but actually, it's really soft on the nose and on the palate. You feel that alcohol, but it's not aggressive. It's carrying the flavour really nicely. And we'll choose to bottle at high strength because we really believe in the quality of our spirit. We're not trying to run the production process really fast. It's nice and slow, nice and gentle, and make a little bit of very good spirit rather than as much as we can. And we're not diluting that down, so
So that's a natural cask strength at that.
We've added a little bit of water just so we can, work from the strength in the cask down to bottling. We just need to be able to keep control of that. So adding a little bit of water to bring it down. But actually, because we're not diluting it all the way down to 40, then the viscosity and the texture and the natural oils from the barley come through, and that high strength doesn't feel like as aggressive as you'd expect, because you've got that texture and that viscosity from the oil.
And what is the casking of this?
So for this, we've used a combination of first fill bourbon barrels, some Sauterne, and some Pedro Jimenez sherry casks in there. So again, with the 0.3, we'll always kind of play around with those casks and start to work out what, with Octomore being relatively young whiskey, what's going to work well, how do we do that. But the quality of the casks, again, are one of the other really important things to talk about, because we're using really good first fill casks, and we made really good spirit, so why would we need to age it for 10 or 15 for it to be good? If you've got really good spirit and really good casks, 5 years it works really well. But if you've got a spirit that's maybe distilled a bit quick and it's got some rough edges to it, and you're using third or fourth or fifth fill casks, you need time. Then time becomes more important. So again, we start to think about 5 years being a challenge, but actually when you taste it, you think about that, and it makes a bit more sense that actually at 5 years, with a well-distilled spirit and good casks, it works really nicely.
And what is obviously the ppm, the phenol parts per million, changes with each batch. What's off the top of your head the strongest, the highest ppm?
So that was in the 8.3, so another Isla grown expression from a few editions ago, and it was 309 ppm.
Good grief!
But and I think that's the thing. Again, you think that's going to be. You always think when you pour it, there's going to be smoke pouring out the glass or something. But when you nose it, again, to me that's really nicely balanced. There's a nice kind of fruity floral notes and a little bit of smoke.
Yeah, is there a point where it literally can't get, it's like adding spice to a food, if you keep adding chili, there's a point where you don't notice that there's more chili. Is it similar with
I think
phenols?
We'll keep trying and see what we can get to, but I think to a point there is, but I think it's how we expect that high number to be, and how it to be so dominant in the whiskey. And actually it comes back to how we're distilling, the way we operate the production at Bruichladdich. It's all about balance and quality of the spirit. So we're not trying to get as many phenols as we can. We lose some of the phenols, about 2/3 through the distillation, as most distilleries do. But we're not chasing after them, because we want to maintain the quality in the spirit. That's more important, and then we just see where that smoke fits in.
Because a lot of people don't realise that you lose the phenols during production. So it says 189 there, but in reality, in the glass, it's about 60.
Yeah, we'll have lost
something like that.
Of that.
Okay.
But again, that's still a very heavily peated, very heavily peated whiskey. Yes. But I think again, what we always tend to find is in that balance. Again, nosing that, I'm getting the influence of the grain. I've got this nice malty.
It is kind of sort of biscuity.
Yeah, absolutely. You've got again lots of kind of stone fruit and kind of citrus, honey notes. There's lovely sweetness to it. These kind of floral honeysuckle notes, and the peat smoke is there, but it's kind of it's like a little whisper of smoke in between everything else.
It's complementary rather than being
it's balanced.
The dominant force, isn't it?
And you find that when you taste it on the finish, and again the texture, the viscosity, it gives you a really long finish. So we're not stripping anything out, we're not chill filtering, we're not doing any artificial colour. It's natural whiskey, and you find that you get this lovely, as all that kind of sweetness and the influence of the wood starts to fade on the palate, that's when the peat smoke comes through. So for the next 3 or 4 days, that's all you can taste, and that's where the Octomore, that high level of phenols really comes through, and that flavour lasts a long time.
That's great, Adam. Thank you so much for sort of talking through that and giving us a bit more of an insight to Bruichladdich and Octomore. So, thank you very much.
Pleasure.
Cheers.
Thank you.